Is it working?
It should be, yes.
Okay. Did you check if it was the H and...
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that. We
Sorry
were
about
trying
that.
to fix sound issues right before we started.
We got the audio back. Like I was saying, welcome to Nat and the Guy. Every day at noon Central. We got a night show at 9:15 Central Time. That's our main show with me and Nat. We're both on camera. I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, and I've been having a lot of problems with audio issues, camera issues, and man. So maybe I should apologize to Nat there. She's had to put up with me all morning. But let's get into Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. And this is turning out to be a bit of a global event. I'm not normally a huge Mission Impossible fan. I'm kind of burned out of the series. But this looks like it's going to be the last in the series. And this is definitely the last of Tom Cruise. Mm-hmm. Why don't we read a little bit of it?
So astonishing. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, described as pure cinema as first reactions hit social media. The 8th film in the long-running Tom Cruise-led spy action series hits theaters May 23rd. And I believe Tom Cruise is going to make an appearance in Mexico.
Oh, he is.
He's coming for the release of it.
Well, this would be a huge movie for Mexico City audiences. Tom Cruise comes off as non-political, somewhat conservative, even though he is a bit of a crazy Scientologist, but he kind of keeps that on the DL. But this is the kind of movie that really does appeal to global audience. This is supposed to be an action-packed, gold star standard action movie, which means even if you can't understand the dialogue, the action alone will get you through the movie. That's why it will appeal to international audiences.
And it might be another way to bring, masculine movies back. I mean, we saw the reaction when they released just one of them, with the whole, what was it called? Top Gun, when they re-released Top Gun. I mean, they got packed because that's what audiences want to see out of an action movie, not women that do it all.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And you brought up a good point on last night's show, and that was, what did you say about it again?
I said a lot of things.
No, there was one specific thing that I didn't know.
Oh, that Tom Cruise got asked about the tariffs on Hollywood, and he said, I'm here to talk about the movie. I'm not here to talk about politics.
Yeah, so he left politics to the side, which was bang on, and I think he made the right decision. He's keeping this wide open for liberal and conservative audiences, so he's going to have mass appeal. There are some drawbacks to this movie. It's mainly the runtime. It's over 3 hours. I typically like a shorter movie, but it's not just about me and what I like. It's really about theaters. Theaters can't do as many showings throughout the day, so it really limits the amount of money the movie can make per day per theater. Also, the IMAX run of this movie, it was actually shot when it was shot for IMAX, or they were at least thinking about IMAX primarily. And it's only going to have a 2 week IMAX run before another movie comes in and is going to take over those IMAX cinemas. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing that's probably a Disney movie or something like that. Disney likes to try to monopolize the amount of theaters they can be in with 3D and with IMAX, and they make theaters sign pre-contracts that certain movies will get those
theaters.
Those theaters, yeah.
And hello, Rafa. How are you doing? We missed you last night. You and Walker were AWOL last night. We thought you got mad at us or something. But we hope everything's okay and that you're still studying for that thing you said you had to study for. But thank you for being here.
Yeah, we really learned to appreciate you and Walker because Nat did her whole first story. And I was kind of laughing because I was looking at the comments and there were no comments because she usually has a comment section at the end of the first segment.
Yes.
But when you and Walker typically write comments, it makes other people feel more comfortable to write comments.
Yes.
And last night it was just a ghost town. There was one person that said hi.
Hello. Yes. And I don't know if it's because they don't want to hear about the trial, the Diddy trial, or what it is, but it was very silent and without you and Walker.
Okay. Well, it's good to have you here, Rafa. And I'm going to continue with Mission Impossible here. This is the final chapter of a 30-year arc. So with Tom Cruise kind of retiring from, I'm guessing maybe action movies in general, but definitely Mission Impossible, I think they will eventually reset the series, but it could mean $1 billion blunder. Trying to bring another action hero when typically today's action heroes aren't like past generations action heroes like Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Tom Cruise. It's going to be really hard to sit a series. You need a strong lead actor. Tom Cruise was that, and people will go to the theater to see him, especially because he does all of his own stunts and he really knows how to promote a movie. So it's a shame to see him go. I don't think this is the last Mission Impossible, even though that's what they're saying. They will try to either sell the franchise or reset the franchise with somebody else. I think it's going to be a really hard reset, and I would expect maybe a little bit of a fail if they do try to reset.
I mean, I think like with Top Gun, if they waited 10, 15 years to do a new one, then there would be more interest. But because they keep trying to restart these franchises, I'm thinking of Marvel, DC, with new faces, new characters right after the old one ends, it doesn't give people enough time to build up nostalgia or to build up an appreciation even for the franchise. So
yeah, but I will say this movie could be comparable to the 007 movies, and that was those were franchise movies as well. Amazon recently paid over $1 billion for the 007 series. The problem is when they bought that series, they thought they had bought all the rights. So they had all these little sub franchises, different characters. They would make offshoots to try to make a 007 universe. And a lot of it, actually all of it, and all of the offshoot characters were really dominated by DEI and woke Hollywood. So now that they did buy the full rights, they're going to start releasing this, but I have a bad feeling a lot of these scripts were written in the wrong era. Mission Impossible is kind of ending at the right time, and Tom Cruise always did it justice by leaving it non-political. So now that Mission Impossible is ending, they can give it a couple years break while these studios kind of reset into the era of AI and maybe non-political, where they're trying to appeal to the masses again. And I'm expecting over the next couple of years, a lot of these DEI writers that were in Hollywood are going to be shuffled out, and there's going to be a restructuring. We're seeing the restructuring of these studios. We talk about a lot about it on our night show. Every week, it seems like executives are being fired, writers are being fired. It looks like they're trying to go back to mainstream. And with Mission Impossible taking a break, it could be ending just at the perfect time to take advantage of maybe good script writing again and good movie making.
And if they do try to reset it, I mean, Tom Cruise has set kind of a gold standard regarding stunts and filming things practically. So if they start not doing that, like they've done in a lot of other franchises, they bring back or they try to continue, then I mean, they're going to have to find an actor that's willing to essentially hang off a helicopter and run over a cliff with a motorcycle, and it's going to be very difficult.
Well, they don't make actors, and they just don't have, even if an actor is willing to do that, it's just they don't have the same ambiance that these former actors did. I don't know anybody. I mean, the closest thing there was The Rock. People would go out to see The Rock in these action movies, but he's in too many movies, and he was a little bit too political. People don't come out to the box office to see The Rock like they used to. So, and he's really aged out, and he's almost in that mid-generation after the major action heroes. There was kind of The Rock to bridge us to where we are today, and there's nobody really today. Chris Hemsworth was almost that person when he did Thor, and he was jacked, but after he went back to being small, he didn't have that screen presence, and he started doing a little bit of non-action hero movies, and I just don't see him in those roles anymore. Yeah, I like Momoa, but he's just chosen so many bad movies over the years that just haven't worked out. Minecraft did, but it's not an action movie. I thought Momoa had all the elements you needed for an action star, but just the movies he were in absolutely bombed.
And all the newer ones, all the newer actors don't look as jacked, don't look as powerful.
They're not masculine. They've taken masculinity away from action heroes, and they've given it to women, and nobody wants to see it because it's not believable. So one thing I would say, and this would be my advice to whatever studio does go with Mission Impossible next. I know Tom Cruise said this would be his last one, but I would pay him a shit ton of money just to make, number one, a cameo, and number two, to promote the movie, saying I endorse the new actor that's in here. I endorse the continuing of the franchise. I'm just a little bit too old, so this is me passing it on. This is his last role as the main actor, but I think if the studio paid him enough, he would give his endorsement and his cameo. They're going to need that to reset this franchise.
You can make, like, I don't know, behind the scenes of him training
Yeah.
or showing him the ropes, literally,
The-
hang off the ropes, stuff like that. Like that's what people want to see.
Maybe bringing him in as the director and then as a co-director would be perfect because you could attach his name on there.
He's already a producer.
And when he directs it, he can say, well, I know how all the stunts worked. I knew how it worked for me as an actor, this and that. It could be the perfect little role to put him in going forward with this. Okay, let's kind of move on.
I think my microphone's
Oh, your microphone's not working. Okay, one moment.
I think I turned it off by accident. So before we move on, Rafa says, I miss you too. Sorry, it was a busy day. It's okay. It was busy for us too, trying to make things work that just were not working. And he also says, Rafa says, I'm catching up with the replays. Thank you so much. Any chance about talking about Orange Man finally changing his mind on the Palestine tragedy?
Yeah, this is huge what's going on in there. Maybe I'll just jump right into politics.
Sure.
He's doing his Middle Eastern peace tour, and before he did, and his business tour, but before he did, he really gave Israel the cold shoulder publicly. I don't know if that's authentic or it's not authentic. I fully expect him to really rehash his relations with Israel after he's done making these peace and economic deals with all these Middle Eastern countries. The reason he gave Israel the cold shoulder is I think it would make negotiations with Qatar, with Saudi Arabia a lot easier. I also think he's showing priority to the Middle East right now so he can go back to Israel and start negotiating that half of the deal. That's how he did it last time when he had the 7 Middle Eastern peace accords. The fact that he didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize for that last time, but Obama did just for being a black president, it was crazy. So I think he's getting ready again to really put pressure on Israel and Palestine through economic trade, through Saudi Arabia, through Qatar, and maybe even Iran. It looks like in yesterday's speeches, he really came down on the neocons. The neocons are the part of his administration and the part of the political U.S. sphere that is always preaching war. They mainly want a Middle Eastern war again. They think that's the easiest thing to get Trump into. Trump has completely rejected that. Yesterday, we talked about Syria. He's lowering economic sanctions on Syria. He's going to try to help Syria out economically. I'm sure that was part of the $600 billion Saudi Arabia deal that he did yesterday. Saudi Arabia is now investing $600 billion into the U.S. That's going to just help with more jumpstart money to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. Also, he had a bunch of economic deals with Qatar today. They gave him the plane the other day. The relationship between Qatar, Saudi Arabia is hugely important to really lower tensions with Palestine, and especially Iran. Iran is that big tipping point. You don't want Trump to be lured into these wars. He has a great track record of his first administration. And to be honest, this is one of the reasons I'm willing to look past some of his other limitations is his ability to walk away from war and de-escalate war and prioritize the economy and trade deals through partners that would normally be hostile, but because he's making economic trade deals, it really improves the relationship. Biden had the strategy of, we don't talk to them. We don't agree with Iran. We don't agree with Russia, so we don't talk to them. And that's not the way to kind of de-escalate high tensions when it comes to kinetic war and things like that.
And Trump always does something that is very rare in politicians, at least nowadays, where he tries to, even though it might not be what people expect or what people think is diplomatic, he knows how to keep kind of everybody happy in a way, but that actually avoids war, that actually avoids more conflict, and that opens up the possibility to do actual cooperation, not the way, let's just say, globalists have been doing it for the past who knows how long.
Yeah, and I didn't have a chance to grab the video, but he's given a few major epic speeches well in the Middle East that were definitely directed towards his Middle Eastern audience and relations going forward with the Middle East. One of them said, We don't want to tell you how to run your country. We don't want to tell you the proper religion within your country. That's for you guys to decide. You decide your own future. The U.S. has in the past made the mistake of trying to get involved in local politics. We just want to create economic ties, which is huge. That's what the Middle East wants to hear. The Middle East has to be soured on U.S. relations over the past couple decades with the amount of wars they have in Iraq 1, Iraq 2, in Syria, in Afghanistan, supporting Israel economically to the tune of billions of dollars every year, which helps them continue wars in Palestine. So Trump has really set the tone in the Middle East for good economic trade, and this really sets up relations with Russia as well. Saudi Arabia is really connected with Iran, which is really connected with Russia. All these countries, this could be really a golden era of peace if he does it right. Trump, for his part, is doing everything right now in these Middle Eastern peace tours. So hopefully he's able to now negotiate with the other side. The other side is going to be Israel with the Palestinian war, and is going to be the EU with this Ukraine war. So both, it's funny because the harder side in these Middle East negotiations and with the Russia negotiations seems to be the EU and Ukraine, and seems to be Israel. The reason it's Israel, Netanyahu's entire political future rides on continuing that war. As soon as that war is over, there could be charges pressed against him. The voting bloc is ready to vote him out at this point. So it's going to be very interesting what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rafa says, great take, guy.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, I was going to say I kind of got right into politics. I love geopolitics. So I felt yesterday it was a little bit too heavy. So I was trying to add in cultural stories. We'll go back to the cultural stories here just for a minute. So YouTube's probably already censored us. Okay. First images of Nicolas Cage as football icon John Madden.
And Christian Bale as Raiders owner Al Davis in Amazon MGM's Madden.
Yeah, and man, I was just psyched to actually see this, to see these two actors here. I actually like both these actors. Sometimes Nicolas Cage can do a really horrible movie because he's desperate for money. But in this case, he's teamed up with Christian Bale, and this looks phenomenal. Christian Bale is always a great actor, and he really commits to the role, even if he is a douchebag on set. We've heard him yelling at people that were in the scene and things like this, but this looks like a good piece of Americana, and America really needs this. And it has football. Typically, when we're choosing stories for this channel, we're looking at what do you call it?
Trending.
Yeah, what's trending and things like that in the U.S., within Mexico, within South America, to kind of help us guide what's going to be popular, what are people looking for. And we don't talk a lot about sports, but that's always the number 1, 2, and 3 things that are trending in almost every country worldwide, it seems like.
Yes.
So this is going to be, I think, if they do it right, it's going to be a good movie. It's also done by Amazon and MGM Studios. I believe MGM is owned by Amazon now. But that being said, Amazon doesn't always do woke movies. They do a lot of woke content, but they do some conservative content too. So, and especially with the tides kind of shifting back to mainstream audiences, Jeff Bezos has shifted the Washington Post and had meetings with the writers specifically saying, we're about capitalism, we're about freedom of speech, do not start crucifying people, and do not do false reporting. So he's owned that company, and he's trying to bring it back to the middle, and that's a newspaper. So I'm sure he's going to try to bring Amazon itself back to the middle when it comes to script writing, and script writing is a lot easier to do that with.
But he also completely ruined the legacy of J.R.R. Tolkien and the whole Lord of the Rings stuff. Well, he let that happen.
I will say this. He let that happen, and he was off getting jacked and being with his model girlfriend and sending her into outer space. But that being said, he kind of let things happen under his
wing, under his
tutelage. I don't know.
Well, in his company.
In his company. But I think he's got a lot of companies going on. And I think he's realizing he's having to align the frontward facing companies such as the Washington Post and Amazon back to the middle. So I think that's what he's going to do here. And I don't think he's necessarily ruined Lord of the Rings. He overpaid for that franchise without a shadow of the doubt. And they did ruin it right now. But if he brings it back to the center and says, that was a one-off, we're going to redo it, we're going to redo it right, they can still save it. They do own that IP, and it is a strong IP. You've just brought in, that's a classic example of DEI writers, and that was the era of woke Hollywood and woke executives. He's fired a lot of those executives now. He's fired a lot of those writers. So he can potentially do Lord of the Rings right. It needs to be a cinema release, and it needs to be something special.
I don't know how many people would be willing to still give it a chance.
Yeah. It would have
After
to,
Rings of Power.
It would have to have the right marketing campaign behind it, something that's different than a movie marketing campaign, showing that they've changed their ways, showing what they did wrong in the last series, why this series is completely different. Things like that, kind of what Mission Impossible does. They focus on the stunts. They focus on things like this.
The actual filmmaking,
actual filmmaking,
people want to see,
which people aren't doing. They're using so much CGI and other things like that.
And then concentrate on, we have this many people of color and this many women, and we're inclusive, and it's our first gay character. Nobody cares about that. They want to see people behind a camera and in front of a camera doing the things to get the thing done.
Well, somebody cares about that because the next story is Ironheart trailer.
Yeah. And Rafa says that happened under his watch. Yes, thank you. That's what we were trying to get.
It's the pitfalls of doing a live show. It's unscripted, especially in the morning.
Yes. Let me see, because for some reason things aren't. Since yesterday, X, for example, has not been working 100%. But okay, found it.
Okay, and so I was watching Culture Casino, and he mentioned this. So I said, take a look at this trailer, because he had the same image here. And I thought it was, is this Iron Man? What is this? And this is just the most laughable trailer I ever seen. This goes into everything we were just talking about woke Hollywood, DEI Hollywood. They've tried to remake and rewrite this thing 2 or 3 times. So this is a layover from that era of Hollywood. We're now in a transition. People do not want to see movies like this. This is not Iron Man. This is Ironheart. This is a DEI movie meets feminism meets nobody wants to watch this crap. It's from the director that wrote Black Panther, which recently he's written Sinners, which came out very well. He typically does black-oriented movies with a lot of black actors, things like this. That is this movie.
Series. Which is even worse, because they keep trying to make series. Disney Plus keeps trying to make series that nobody will watch past the first half of the first episode, and then they try to figure out, is it because everybody's racist, or nobody wants to see these things, or everybody's against women? It's like, no, it's because you're making something that could be 30 minutes long into this whole dragged out thing that it's not going to keep anybody's attention.
Yeah, it was very interesting when I was watching the trailer. They were really leaning into the main character, who is a young, looks like a teenage female that's a genius.
Yes.
And that she also leans into black culture, and she talks a little bit ghetto and things like that, which the two things really just don't coordinate. Make the character one, make the character or the other, either a genius or lean into more black culture and things like that. Mm-hmm. You're adding two things that are kind of in contradiction with each other. But yeah, this thing was laughable. It was like a bunch of feminists, a bunch of strong women kicking ass that really didn't make sense to me.
Mary Sue's that know how to do everything already. You can't show a woman being weak. You can't show a woman not knowing how to do something, even though we don't know how to do a lot of things.
And it would look like a cheap ripoff of Iron Man.
Yeah.
And they already
is what it is.
And they did Iron Man right with Robert Downey Jr., and you're putting this young actress into this ripoff of Iron Man. People are only going to compare it to Iron Man, and they're only going to compare her to Robert Downey Jr. You're setting her up for absolute failure.
And that's what Disney has done with all of these remakes that people complain about, also their live action films. I mean, it's like they don't want to give their actors that they're trying to prop up and show representation. It's like they're purposefully trying to make them fail, because they can't be that stupid that they don't know that people will make the comparison. And when the older thing is better than the newer thing, yeah.
Okay, let's move on from Ironheart. I just want to say, if you do want to watch a trailer and laugh, watch the Ironheart trailer, and it's going to be crap. I'm sure nobody's going to watch it.
Speaking of mistakes and rehashes and trying to remake something that doesn't work, new CNN streaming service to launch this fall with free subscriptions for cable subscribers.
Yeah, so they had already tried this once before. It was a $600 million fail. And if they do this right, this could be the future of CNN. They need to go to an online platform, but they need to transition it properly. Yesterday, we were talking about NBC and them leaning heavy into sports. And I've been saying for a long time, sports is the only thing that can elongate the life of network TV. So it gives them literally a second breath, but it's not going to last forever. So if they can transition that sports audience from network TV into their online audience and their online platforms by combining the two, put interactive things you can do on your phone with the live network TV to transition your audience from one to the other, because everybody's going to have their phone while they're watching sports. Now, CNN, I understand this is a news model, not a sports model, but they have to do something similar. They're going to they have had success, but with bringing one extremely intellectual conservative on their kind of debate platform, and it's working because people are tuning in to watch his clips on YouTube. His clips are absolutely blowing up because he's blowing progressives out of the water with everything they're saying. Mm-hmm. Now they need to somehow have more debate on their channel. That's going to equal clips online and on YouTube, and then have that YouTube channel link to their online app or their online channel. Mm-hmm. They're going to need to somehow really bring their audience from their network TV into their online platform. Problem is they brought in new leadership at CNN, and they said they were going to go back to the middle, and they never went back to the middle. No. They brought one guy. They brought one guy in, and that one guy they brought in actually worked. But there's so much pushback against him because he's making everybody else on the channel look like a fool. They don't want to do it again because then they know if they bring in 2 or 3 more personalities like that, it then becomes conservatives, because the conservatives look far more intellectual at this point, because conservatives have spent the last 10 years in an alternative media space, really sharpening their debate tools. They know how to debate. They have the best talking points. The conservatives currently own the 80-20 issues. And when you own an 80-20 issue, when you get in a debate, the general public is going to side with the 80 of the 80-20 issue, which is the conservatives.
Yeah. And the name of that guy is Scott Jennings.
Yeah, Scott Jennings.
And yes, they just need more of him and less of all the other ones that surround him on that panel.
They need it specifically right now so they can transition what they have left of their cable TV audience to their online platform and to YouTube platforms and things like this. So then they can appeal to a younger audience, grow the audience. And then if they want to go back to their liberal propaganda, they can. But right now, this is make or break for them. If they can't transition their audience to online, to their streaming platform or whatever this is, subscription platform, this company is going to be done. They're going to sell for pennies on the dollar, and I'm guessing a conservative may buy them up.
And also they need to realize that true just run-of-the-mill journalism, where they show what's happening and they kind of talk about just what's happening on the ground or whatever they're talking about, is important, and people still look for that. I mean, there's so many already opinions both on YouTube, podcasts, other news channels, and they also have their panel that they do with Scott Jennings where he comes out looking great. But they have to learn to also just be journalists, just report about stuff. Just don't put your opinion in there. Go into the action. That's what CNN used to be known for.
Yeah,
it used to be in the war zone.
The problem is there's a massive NGO that helps coordinate stories that all these news networks do, and they've all signed contracts with that NGO. So it's really hard for them to break that contract and things, and people don't know about a lot of this stuff, but we have reported on it in the past. But this is an easy equation. We've seen Piers Morgan do it.
Yes.
Just bring debate in, both sides. That way people think it's fair and balanced, and it brings eyeballs from young people, from old people, from everybody. Just do what Piers Morgan is doing. Copy him, put it on network TV.
On your streaming service, but bring debate in, but also bring in like the other side, the conservative side, I'll just call it, with intelligent people, with smart people like Scott Jennings. Because, for example, Jubilee, with their whole surrounded stuff they do on YouTube and the debates that they try to do, they bring in conservatives that end up looking like fools on purpose. And people stop watching because they can see right through it.
And I will say this, I watch a ton of debates, and debate has really come up in new media as something really amazing, and it looks like it is the future of not only news but a lot of other things. The liberals refuse to debate and refuse to talk for the past decade. That's why they have dull knives right now, and they don't know their arguments. They don't know what the general public even kind of considers normal. They're in this bubble, which makes them sound insane. Mm-hmm. The conservatives have done absolutely the opposite. They not only debated with whatever liberal they could get, which was few and far between, but debated with each other. So there's a ton of good conservative debaters and a lot of good Christian nationalist debaters. That being said, there is one debater that I absolutely hate. His name's Pisco. We seen him last night, and even you knew who he was, but he used to be a really shitty debater. Because I watched so many debates, I know all the fringe debaters in that space, and he used to be absolute crap, but he sharpened his knives, and it took him about 2 or 3 years, but now he is destroying some conservative debaters. He went against Alex Stein last night, and he made Alex Stein look like a fool. Alex Stein acted like he had to get in a car and drive because he wanted to act like he wasn't actually focused on the debate, and he would have an excuse to lose it. I don't agree with anything Pisco says, but he does know how to debate, and if he can do it, other liberals can do it too. And I would like to see liberals get better at debating, or progressives get better at debating, because that just makes a better debate overall when they do go against conservatives.
And also, like, big news networks, like, as Rafa says, the crappy news network, exactly. All of these big news networks, when they're trying to pivot towards online, when they're trying to pivot towards trying to get a streaming service, they should listen to the voices that are already online, and they should bring them in. Stop being scared of bringing people that maybe you don't know, but that have huge audiences online that they've built by themselves through their opinions, through their debate, and stop just relying on your anchors and your hosts that only old people know nowadays.
Well, they can't do that, because if they put them against their host and things like that, their host gets destroyed, and then their host looks like incredible. Piers Morgan was the model. He brought people that were in the absolute fringes of YouTube, some of the most fringe Christian national debaters, but that had big followings within their spaces, but nobody knew them in the mainstream. He brought them in. He brought extremely progressive liberals in that nobody knew except in these liberal bubbles, and he put them head to head. And usually these people wouldn't debate.
Wouldn't talk to each other.
They wouldn't talk to each other in the YouTube space, but because somebody like Piers Morgan that would offer a huge audience to them, they would go head to head. And this is how Piers Morgan capitalized on this, and this is how CNN could do the same. Okay, we're spending too much time on shill CNN.
Crappy news network.
Okay, let's go into Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth.
Pete Hegseth. He has a weird name. Yeah. So yes, he apparently signs a defense cooperation agreement between the United States and Qatar. Continuing with, so there wasn't even an article by the time I was trying to look for.
Yeah, this is breaking news.
Yes. Oh, do we need sound?
If we have it, yeah.
Firstly, a letter, a statement of intent on defense cooperation between the state of Qatar and the United States of America.
So this is them signing that agreement with the leader of Qatar, the president, Pete Hegseth, and their head of their military.
Secondly, a letter of offer and acceptance for MQ-9B aircrafts. And a letter of offer and acceptance, FS lids.
Okay,
Firstly,
that's good.
Why'd they leave Trump's?
Trump is actually the ones making these deals, not Hegseth.
I know, but it
And
was
the
just
same
funny.
thing-
Everybody left, and then
Same
he was
thing.
just kidding.
Same thing. What happened with the UK deal the other day? People don't realize they negotiated that full deal. Trump called up the Prime Minister of the UK and said, "No, we want this, this, and this on top of this. Otherwise, you can scrap the deal." And then his negotiator said, "We couldn't have done this without Trump. We negotiated a complete other deal, and Trump came in at the last minute and had some big asks and got those big asks." Very often he lets his negotiators do 90% of the lifting. He comes in at the end and really gets the cherry on top with the 10% that the U.S. would have never got. That being said, there's so much news in the Middle East right now with Donald Trump's Middle East peace tour. He brought Hegseth over there. He brought Marco Rubio over there. He brought Elon Musk over there. He brought Sam Altman-Fried over there. Which is typically Elon Musk hates Sam Altman-Fried because he stole his company from him. And Sam Altman-Fried was in a huge lawsuit with, I believe it was Saudi Arabia or Qatar. And they were seen together. He had to pay out billions of dollars to that country, and they were not on speaking terms. And now they were laughing and joking like nothing ever happened. So there are some major deals going down right now economically. And if you can make major economic deals, this will completely put a foot on any talks of war. They're not going to want to go to war with countries that they have major economical alliances with. Also, Saudi Arabia is buying and Qatar are buying massive amounts of military equipment and things like that. So
Yes.
this was a huge deal. Not a lot of people talked about it because there was just so much news coming out as far as economic deals go with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, and then there was a ton of Iran talk and also a ton of Syria talk, and how Trump is completely de-escalating that and kind of putting Israel's needs on the back burner, which is great.
And it also goes back to this whole different way of doing things that Trump has that apparently no other politician has understood, where it's like, you do you. We want to get out of the wars if we have any with you, and let's just focus on the economics. That's one of the few places we can actually cooperate with each other. So let's just focus on that and talk about that.
Yes, and the BRICS is really coming up. This is the kind of the Global South Economic Alliance. They're going to have their meeting in Brazil soon, and that's expected. They're expected to release their digital currency at that point. So lines are really being drawn. Who's allied with whose country, and it's going to be very interesting what countries are able to negotiate a deal where they're able to work in both economies, because it looks like they're wanting to shut down and create these closed systems where you're either in one or the other. Okay, let's go into the next one. And this was something I found online, and this was about a mother really shaming another mother because her son is competing with the women because her son's transgendered. But it's good that there's now public shaming of this going on. It's the only way to kind of stop it. It's good that parents are now standing up. So let's play the video.
Do you want me to read all of it, or?
Oh, why don't you read all of it first? Because the video doesn't make the one mother necessarily look that good. But when you read what actually happened, then you really understand the video and what happened, because there was a whole history of this other mother really shaming these girls and things like that.
So this is from Sonia Shaw, and asking Trump to pull the funding and stop the insanity. It says, this is the mother of a male athlete competing against girls, robbing them of fairness. She sent me a cease and desist for exposing the truth. She tried to silence me at the track meet, and now she's caught on video gaslighting and threatening girls, all because they wore shirts that simply stood for truth. She told me to shut up. She tried to play the victim and involve police after she approached me for daring to speak out in defense of female athletes. No crime was committed. We were there to cheer on girls who were forced to compete against a boy. That's the real injustice. 3 girls lost their shot to advance that day, not because they lacked talent, but because the system failed them. And this mother stood proudly in defense of that failure. I ripped up her cease and desist and tossed it where it belongs, in the trash. I will not be intimidating. I've already filed formal complaints with Jurapa, I don't know how to say that, Valley Unified, President Trump, the Office of Civil Rights, the Department of Justice, and CC'd Newsom, Bonta, CIF, and Thurmond. So this is in California. And I'm just getting started. To the DOJ and Department of Education, President Trump, pull the funding now. I'm the mom who ran for a school board because I had enough. The state already sued us for passing common sense policies, and we're still standing. But this fight isn't just mine. It's for every daughter in America. and then talks to California.
And let's just remember the Biden administration was arresting parents at school board meetings and putting them on Terry watch lists just for voicing their opinions because they didn't agree with their opinions. And this is one of the opinions. Parents were being put on Terry watch lists in the United States, which is absolutely insane. Okay, let's watch the video. And remember that context. She's trying to gaslight in the video and she knows she's being filmed. So she's trying to make the other mother look crazy, but the other mother doesn't back down and continues to shame her. And this is what more parents need to do. Mm-hmm. Shame is a powerful weapon if it's used appropriately.
Yes.
I'm going to listen. I don't have to. I have a right to speak truth. Boys are boys. Girls are girls. This son does not belong competing against those girls. Period. What a coward of a woman you are allowing that. What a coward telling our woman, telling girls to go and compete against a boy. How embarrassing. You're a mother. You're a mother. Stand up like a mother. I am a mother. I'm protecting girls. You want a boy. How many people support the boy competing against the girls? Nobody. Don't tell me to shut up. I was respectful to you. Okay. Of course not. Be a real mom. No, you're not. You're a coward. Your mental illness is on your son, you coward. I'm going to listen. I don't have to.
And you heard the whole crowd really rise up. When one person rises up, anybody that agrees with that person will often start to rise up too. But when everybody shuddered into fear because of what happened in the United States over the last 4 years with the Biden administration, and really to set up to what allowed those the implementation of those kinds of policies that really struck the fear into many parents. I mean, there was the one incident in, where's Tim Pool from again?
Virginia.
The school board and the school there were allowing transgendered boys into women's bathrooms, and so girls' bathrooms, and girls were getting SA'd in the bathroom. And there was a parent that came to the school board meeting, a father, to say exactly what happened, and they tried to arrest him and pulled them out physically from that.
And just a reminder that, I mean, there are no trans children. That is like a vegan cat. Like, we know who's making the decisions for these kids. And usually it's to gain self-aggrandizing and attention by the parents.
We've showed this on this show, many clips about parents being interviewed talking about their 1 and 2 year old child and how they knew they were trans. This is crazy. It's different. It's a different thing if they're 16 and 17 year old, they're about to be 18. When they're adults, they can do what they want. So at that point, maybe the parent has a lot less control, but at 1 or 2 years old, that's 110% on the parent.
Yes, and children cannot consent to the medications, the puberty blockers that they're trying to put them on.
Yeah.
And I mean, that just has to become a reality everybody knows.
Okay, let's go into these cricket farms. And I had a clip where a gentleman explained all this extremely well. He had all the documents from the Canadian government and stuff like that. I forgot to bookmark it. So I'm just going to do my best, and we'll just make this story kind of brief. But Canada had 2 of the largest cricket farms in the world, and it was being funded by the Chinese government in part. The other part of it was being subsidized by the Canadian government, and nobody wanted to eat crickets in Canada. This was this globalist agenda, and with Mark Carney there, I'm surprised it's getting shut down. But so there was reports that the Canadian government subsidized this to the tune of $8.5 million. There's new documents coming out that people are uncovering. It looks like it's more like $40 million that they invested in this, and now these cricket farms are declaring bankruptcy in Canada.
This is coming from Juno News, which is
great news, by the way.
It's a great independent. There's no video.
Oh, that's fine.
So Juno News is a great independent Canadian journalists, and they say edible cricket farm funded by Liberals fails, owes massive debt. Company backed by federal funding to kickstart edible crickets for human consumption in Canada is now facing serious financial trouble and has been placed under receivership by a creditor. If they did it in Mexico, they'd be doing just fine.
Yeah, like in certain countries, in certain places around the world, in Asia, even in Mexico, crickets are something that's consumed. The Western audience isn't going to want that. And you're going to actually have to break their back financially so they can no longer eat meat or even eat regular foods before they're going to eat crickets. And even then, I think people would go poaching and hunting in Canada before they would eat crickets. So this is a hard sell to American or Canadian audiences. This was just, I think they were, like you always say, they were funneling money around to their friends.
And it's also more about the forcing of, oh, this is what we're going to do now because the experts are telling you this is how you should eat and this is what you need to consume, rather than maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe it already was happening in the country anyways. It's the forcing.
Yeah, but we also went over yesterday. There's been billions of dollars invested. I think it was 48 billion or somewhere around there. I can't remember yesterday. I had my notes yesterday, but that the Canadian government invested in the EV business, and now all those investments are either going bankrupt or they're moving to the States or they're paused or they're canceled their production. EVs in Canada just aren't working, even with the Canadian government trying to force EVs down people's throats by putting more and more gas taxes on, more and more insurance taxes on, actually outright banning gas-powered vehicles, the sale of new gas-powered vehicles, and things like this. So there, yeah, in kind of closing there, the Canadian government really looks like they're funneling money around and lining their friends' pockets, and their friends' pockets are acting like they're going to invest in this, and then they just pocket the money and declare bankruptcy with the company, and then the money just disappears.
And Rafa says they are delicious. And he also says, regarding the last story, read with Super Holly voice. I don't remember her voice. I did used to watch her, but I don't remember Super Holly's voice. But I'm going to try, I guess. It's not transgender. It's loony with weird fetishes, I think. I have to rewatch Super Holly to remember what she sounds like. But yes, I mean, I agree with Rafa. They're good. And again, if you try to do it someplace where it was already accepted and not try to say, oh, you have to replace your red meat, which is part of your DNA essentially as Americans and Canadians.
And
with
also
crickets.
EV cars work in certain places in the world.
Yes.
China does the manufacturing for EV batteries. They're extremely cheap to make over there. They sell them. They are exploding in the Asian market. They just don't work well in the Canadian market, and in cold weather climates. They're also not working in Russia because EV batteries don't work good in cold weather conditions. And there's a various number of other reasons they're not working in certain other regions. In the US, people typically travel a lot farther than they do in Asian countries. So the EV batteries cannot get you there and back in a day without having to stop and try to charge your car for 3 or 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So
and just make sure they don't explode.
Know your market, whether it's crickets or whether it's EVs. But these globalists had these global initiatives where they wanted everybody to drive an EV. Everybody's going to eat crickets. Everybody's going to live in the pod. Everybody's going to live under our cloud coverage so we can block out the sun, which they're still doing in the UK, which is crazy.
Yes.
Okay, let's try to finish this up really quick. And
you tell me where you want me to go.
Maybe we'll leave the migrant stories for tonight. And
I mean,
okay. Let's just go with what's in with a funny video, which would be the black woman video. This is why I hate when people talk about black women being obese.
So that's what the lady says. That's not
I say it as well. I completely agree with her.
You don't like it when people say black women are obese? Okay.
I hate when people talk about black women being obese. I hate it because it becomes a way to blame us for a set of conditions that we didn't create. We are living in the Trump era. And look, those policies kill our people. And what public health practitioners think is that our stress responses in the body change our metabolism. It's literally that the racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same. I hate when people talk about black women.
Diet just don't work for you the same. Like, this is absolutely crazy. I've gotten fat and I've got really skinny in my lifetime. I actually typically get extremely skinny. I have to eat a lot just to try to maintain my weight. Mm-hmm. So it's calories in, calories out. If you're obese, you especially need to live an active lifestyle. I have an extremely bad back. I'm constantly in pain. Some days I wake up absolutely crippled. It's hard to even walk, but I still go to rehabilitation for my back. I try to go to Pilates, things like this, but because it's self-responsibility. I kind of put myself into it with how long and how hard I worked throughout my lifetime doing hard labor jobs and things like this. and now I have to pay the consequences. It doesn't mean I blame somebody else and just let my back go. So I end up in a wheelchair.
And
No, I fight against it.
Yeah, I mean, she went far off the deep end saying that's racism and Trump, why I'm fat. But I do agree that there are food deserts, for example, and that the way food is manufactured in the United States and all the additives and the seed oils and all of that, I mean, that does impact somebody's health as well. And if it's the only thing you can get, then, I mean, it's sad and unfortunate, and the fact that people aren't taught how to farm when they're young, maintain a farm within your own property, that's also
you're going easier on her.
But I was going to say self-responsibility and calories in, calories out. It's also at the end of the equation, and research right now is essentially free. If you have an internet connection, if you have a phone, you can look up how to eat healthier, what good foods are good and bad for me, what is a calorie, how to count the calories. So I mean, in the end, it is self-responsibility, and there are ways to find good food, like
if you live in a food desert, if you live in a food desert, it may take you 4 or 5 years to save up enough money, get a secondary job. You need to move out of that food desert. Like Canada stepped over every red line I had. It wasn't with food, but it was with politics. It took 4 or 5 years to leave that country. I worked 110 hours a week, and I took self-responsibility and said, no more. You're not stepping all over me anymore. And we moved to Mexico.
And saved up and weren't just buying things to buy things and not following trends. And
I mean,
sometimes not. I mean, I don't remember the last time I bought clothes, for example.
Well, that really helped us when we wanted to leave Canada. We really learned to live frugally, and we worked a lot of hours. So when we got down here, we don't have a lavish lifestyle or anything like that. We know how to live very cheaply. I buy the same things every week, things like that. So it really helped us in the long run too.
And I mean, yes, we got all the equipment, but because that was part of the saving up plan to leave and the trying to.
That's why I had 4 jobs instead of 2.
Yes. So it was a lot of saving, and yes, we might have a lot of equipment to do this, and like microphones and things where people would say, "Oh, but you have all this technology. What do you mean? Like you live frugally?" But that's because it went towards the thing we wanted to work at, we wanted to build together, and then saving up to actually leave.
Well, also a big part of going into trying to buy all the equipment for a production company is my back was going out. I knew my back was going out. I had always done very, very physical jobs, whether it was underground mining or security or teaching jiu-jitsu or personal training or security. I had always done physical jobs, and I knew my back was going out. Luckily, it was starting to go out slowly. So even though I couldn't teach jiu-jitsu no more, I still could do some other physical jobs, but I knew that was going to be coming to an end. So I took 4 jobs, worked 110 hours a week before my back went out and I wouldn't be able to work. I bought a bunch of equipment and saved to leave the country. Now I have a job where it's not physically intensive, and that was 100% intentional. I also love what I do. So I really thought out what I was going to do with the second half of my life if my back completely went out. So I took self-responsibility before I was at the point where I couldn't work anymore. I wouldn't have the option to save money to start a small production company. This girl needs to take self-responsibility.
Yes. And you can't blame everybody. I mean, at the end of the day, you end up blaming everybody, but you still end up ending your life.
Yeah.
And you still end up in the bad position you're in, no matter how long it takes you to blame every single thing that you think is affecting you and never mention yourself. Once you mention yourself, you start realizing that, oh, I have some things that I can change. And the ones I can't, I work around or I try to avoid or whatever.
She has the ability to choose what she eats. And she also has the ability where she's able-bodied. She can still walk. Mm-hmm. And I know that feeling of my back going out and like, oh no, what am I going to do the second half of my life? Like I had to take responsibility right then and make some hard decisions. If she was completely disabled in a wheelchair, she would be in a much harder spot than she is right now. Mm-hmm. The fact that she's shucking responsibility and she's able-bodied and she can choose what she puts into her body, she has all the tools she needs to make the life change other than the basic willpower.
And Rafa says, I agree with Nat. Thank you. It's a matter of self-responsibility, but it's much easier if you have money for more expensive options. We need to acknowledge that. And the system is made for people to struggle more with their health. And yes, in the United States, even in Mexico now, and in Canada, it's sick care, not health care. So they try to treat you once you're sick instead of telling you how not to get sick and what the best options. Like that's easy to teach in school even, but they don't do it or they don't do it properly. And even in food deserts and even when the options are more expensive, I mean, McDonald's Wendy's, etc., they have healthier options. Even when you just have that fast food, if you look it up on your phone and see what has the least calories, the least amount of the bad fats and the most amount of the good fats, then eat that at least until you can get out of there.
Yeah, and I will say...
plant an apple tree.
Oh, now I kind of forgot. Talk a little bit more. I'll try to remember.
So yes, I mean, it is difficult to find food to try to take care of your health. It is more expensive to eat organic or to get the meat that doesn't have all the hormones in it. But if it's the only thing you can afford for now, at least get and try to find and learn about the best options of the worst ones you have at the moment.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is, I do agree with it's easier if you do have a little bit of money and this and that. But when my back was going out, I went from high-paying jobs to I was doing most of the 4 jobs I was working were minimum wage. I was lucky in the sense I did live in a Western country where minimum wage was high enough where if I did work 4 jobs, I could save enough money to not only leave the country, but buy the equipment that I need. So people in third world countries, it is a little bit of a different story, and I am understandable to that. But this girl is living in America and things like that. So Americans and Canadians and people in Western countries are typically the ones that have the victim mentality the most.
And they don't realize how good they have it. But also in Mexico, and I will go into, quickly, corporations and the food that they've injected into are the countries just to make profit. For example, Coca-Cola making it cheaper to buy the soda than the water, and fast food making it cheaper than to buy actual fruits and vegetables. But in Mexico, we still have markets. We still have a lot of traditional cooking that is done on the streets even.
There's not really food deserts here like there are in the States.
There are, but not in the city, not in Mexico City. But a lot of people do still grow their own food, do still prepare their own meals, but slowly companies have started to put the terrible things into stores, into schools that now they try to remove, with Sheinbaum trying to remove that. But remembering that there are those options. I still see mango sellers on the street here. You'd never see that in Canada. You'd never see that in the States where fruit is being sold.
Mexico is extremely healthy country in the sense that the amount of choices you have. The fruits and vegetables look much better here than they do in Canada. The problem here is the choice. People are kind of trained into making the bad choice, but the option is there for the good choice. The healthy choice here is actually a ton cheaper than the unhealthy choice, where it's opposite in Canada. The healthy choice to buy fruits and vegetables, it actually costs more than it does to eat out. Also, I will take this opportunity, even though I'm not the biggest Sheinbaum fan, I do like the fact that she is limiting sugars in schools, although a lot of people don't like that.
I don't like the way they went about it.
And GMO corns. She does focus on what she can do with food health, and I do like some of her policies within that realm. Even if they don't work out, at least she's trying some things that is really focused on the health of the country.
But then they end up making those bad choices even more attractive because now it's banned.
Yeah, but you
now
have to try something.
Contraband.
Even if this policy fails, she needs to keep trying other things and focus on food health. It is a good thing that she does focus on that, even though I don't like some of the other issues she is focused on.
Even supporting or making tianguises and markets even bigger and giving them actual spaces and giving them actual ways for more people to go to them. Because, most of what's sold there, yes, there's a lot of street food fried in oil, but there's also a lot of fruits, vegetable stands, cheese that is actually still made from milk, not like the one you find at the grocery store. I've been struggling to find Oaxaca cheese at the grocery store, and I just gave up. I just go to the market when they come out every Thursday. But here it is easier, and the problem is people have been trained that, because it's American, because it's processed, it means it's better.
But I also like the food labels that are having to be put on
but nobody
packages, and there is a tariff on American foods and stuff like this, so they cost way more. And typically when I look at the ingredients of the American products, and I know what they are because there's the big label in Mexico on American products, you can look at the ingredients and they're far worse than what's in the Mexican products.
And in Mexico, you can manage to essentially eat on the street, or technically fast food, with something and it be something that's not coming in a wrapper or not coming in a package. Yeah. Like you can literally find the fruit.
Well, you can. My stomach can't handle it.
Well, no, but even just buying the fruits and vegetables, or buying, I don't know, esquites, which is boiled, or even if there's someone that still makes tamales with actual corn and lard. All of that is better for you than anything that can come out of a package.
They were out of tamales yesterday.
Oh, I asked them to get me a tamal. And just finishing up, so Walker, hello Walker. Thank you for being
Walker.
here.
We thought you guys left us. Now you're both back with us.
You're both back with us today. So Walker says, did they talk about that Tom Cruise movie? And they say the CIA is an efficient intelligence service, efficient at making the U.S. allies look bad.
Yeah, the CIA might be a good intelligence service, but everything they do seems to come out in the public. And man, they have a lot of bad policies and bad things they've done in the past. So hopefully the CIA can be reformed. That being said, we told Rafa at the beginning of the show when he tuned in, thank you for coming back. It was hell not having you two there last night because she did her first segment.
On Diddy.
On Puff Daddy. And at the end of the segment, she usually goes into questions. And nobody had any questions. Usually you, Rafa, and Walker write some comments so it makes other people feel comfortable to write comments. So there's quite a few to read at the end of the segments.
Yeah, so we really appreciate you.
There was only a hi.
And we also like to hear your opinions and the questions you ask. Yeah. And I mean, what you bring to the conversation is always very interesting. And Rafa says, I'm currently buying raw milk at just 20 pesos per liter. We had a whole thing with raw milk. So when we
first moved to Mexico,
he made me go to Querétaro to try to go find a producer of raw milk. And then we figured out they actually sell it in Mexico City.
Let's start at the beginning of the story. In Canada, I wanted raw milk, but it's completely banned in Canada.
Yes.
They're trying to get around it by what's called cow sharing. So you can invest in a farmer that will sell you a share of their cow, and then he's allowed to distribute the milk from there. It's extremely long and legal process, and farmers can get in serious trouble for it. So they typically don't do it. So when we moved to Mexico, I was like, oh, raw milk is produced here. We should be able to find it.
Yeah, I remember when you wanted me to buy a cow, and like half of a bit of a cow, and I found that
it's
ridiculous.
Called cow sharing.
When you wanted me to share a cow.
But we ended up finding there is a good raw milk store here. What's it called?
Well, but it's just, I don't remember what the name is. There are a lot of producers here that do actual raw milk. And they transport it to the big main cities. This one was based out of Querétaro, but.
Yeah, but I did like the raw milk, and typically dairy products make my back hurt and I get really bloated. So when I was eating the raw milk, it was a lot better. But we moved from one location, Mexico City, to another, and it's a little bit harder to get it over here.
Yes.
At the other place, it was only a few blocks away.
Yeah, and they also had butter and stuff. So if you can and you can find it, I mean, I do recommend going for that, because even in the ones that say organic, there's a lot of components that people aren't even aware that are there.
Yeah.
But yes, that was a whole adventure going to Querétaro and not find. We never found the place actually, and then I actually contacted the producer themselves and learned where they actually sold it within Mexico City.
Yeah. So
there's a lot more.
There's quite a few places in Mexico City, and if you are buying raw milk, which you are, congratulations. They will sell. They most likely sell butter there
and cheese
that are made from those milk products as well that are raw.
Yes. And so now Rafa and Walker are having a whole conversation. So Rafa says, and I went de parranda yesterday. So he went out partying. He told us he was just busy. So being busy with seeing people is the best way to be busy.
He's working hard on his school and his certification right now. So you have to let loose.
And the best kind of busy is when you're with other people and having fun. And Walker says, sorry, I went to sleep early yesterday. Don't say sorry. I mean, we just missed you. We just want to let you know we appreciate both of you a lot. Rafa says, don't lie. And then Walker was like, no, man, I'm actually on my break right now. I'm kind of sleepy. I remember when I used to work at the schools and even within the film industry, and anywhere I worked, I would always put on like shows or people talking or podcasts. And that was the only thing that would make me kind of stay awake.
Yeah.
Because working can be a drag sometimes. And Rafa says, at least the one I buy tastes better boiled, to be honest. And I mean, yes, of course it's raw. And it does still sometimes curdle faster and become cheese faster because it doesn't have all the stuff. But it still retains most of the things as long as it's not pasteurized by, big milk or whatever.
You also have to be careful of how the raw milk producer is transporting the raw milk to wherever you're buying it, because it's not just about maybe it's produced well and maybe where it's stored at its final location as well. But the other day we were driving down the street and I'm like, oh, hey, Nat, look. And it was the back of a pickup truck just filled with dead chickens.
Yeah, that's how they transport things here.
But it was hot that day.
Most of our
And
bodies.
there was no bag like in the liner of the truck or anything.
That's because you're coming from the first
chickens.
world. You're coming from the first world.
But I'm
not
saying
used
if
to
you're
that.
transporting raw milk like
Yes.
that, the place we were buying it, I think it was transported very well because it didn't taste any different than regular milk.
I mean, it did taste different. It tasted better, but it didn't taste off.
Yeah, it didn't taste off.
And I was going to say something. Also, if you're buying raw milk, I mean, this is just going to the extreme. But if you can get it in a glass container, not plastic.
That's extreme.
It is, but I can get I want to make my own bread, so.
You don't have time.
I want to mill my own
You
grain.
need to make videos.
I want to mill my own grains, but yeah, there's no time to do that right now. But I think just even thinking about those kinds of things and putting it out in the conversation is important because most people don't think about it. And they're like, oh, I'm hungry. What should I go eat? The McDonald's is right there. I'll just eat that today. Meanwhile, there's a fruit stall or, I don't know, street food that's also there with vegetables, with less processing, but you just see what's fastest.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's wrap it up.
We went over a little bit, but thank you so much, Walker and Rafa, for being here. We'll continue to do my show in Spanish at 8 p.m. You say Central Time. Is that Mexico City time?
Central Time is Mexico City time, but more people know what Central is.
Okay.
So I just say Central. Because Central will apply to certain regions of Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Mm-hmm. Or if I say Mexico City time, people
they have to Google it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 9:15 p.m. in English on this channel as well with both of us on camera. And quickly, Rafa says, what about an aluminum? I can never say that word. Aluminum container like in the old days. And I mean, yes, it depends on how the aluminum is produced and what kind of components are put into it.
Aluminum is not good.
I mean, cans are mostly made of aluminum.
Yeah, they're not good. I don't think.
And they're lined with plastic. That's the thing. You have to make sure.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, if you don't know.
But glass is the best.
This one, next one, yeah. Aluminum cans are lined with plastic on the inside. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes.
And typically aluminum cans, if you get products that are a couple years old that aren't lined with plastic, they can rust on the inside.
Yes.
That's why they're lined with plastic, but the plastic's bad on itself.
And that's how you can also get botulism, but that's going into a whole different thing. Just don't inject it into your face with Botox. But yes, thank you. And we'll see you. We can continue the conversation at 9:15.
Oh, yeah. We'll be back at 9:15 Central Time.
p.m.